Welcome to the Wolverine Digest podcast, the best spot for objective and authentic coverage of Michigan athletics. If you want open dialogue, honest opinions, and in-depth coverage of the maize and blue, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's your host, Brandon Brown, joined as always by Chris Breiler.
I was going to start by saying go blue.
Chris, I don't know about you, but this one show a week thing makes it feel like we're just not doing our job. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it right now still.
I'll tell you how I feel. I don't know if anybody else out there is struggling with the same thing, but dude, like where in the fuck is the sun? Like where is the sunshine? I am struggling. Like I know they call it seasonal depression, whatever the hell it is, man. All I want to do is like sleep. I've just like not been in a great mood. The sun was out for like 5 minutes earlier today. I looked at the extended forecast, not even like they kind of show maybe partial sun, something in the, none of that within the foreseeable future, man. I'm really questioning whether or not moving back to Michigan was the right choice.
Yeah, I know that is every year. I mean, it's coming.
Is music still playing?
Is it too long? I mean, typically I let it go for a little while.
We're just partying.
Had like a minute 45 left on the track, dude. Apparently, Chris is ready to go. We're gonna turn off the music.
It's the weather. It's the weather. It's got me in a mood. And then all the other bullshit. It's just got me in a mood, Brandon.
I usually don't turn off the intro music until we're done with the intro shit. And we're talking about the sun right now, so I'm thinking, all right, I'll let it ride a little bit. But hey, let's go. Let's get
the absence of it. It should be doom and gloom music if we're going to be playing anything. I don't get it, man. It's like I was talking to my wife about it the other day. Like, people that live in southern state, you live in Florida all year. You live in some of these other places where it's usually just sunny. I mean, I can't remember the last time I saw like blue sky and sunshine. Like, this is a tough place to live, man. It's gloomy a lot.
And you didn't even get a dose of it in Arizona. I got a little bit of a blast.
So I'm saying I went out to Arizona and it was overcast and rainy. I come home, it's overcast and rainy. It's just, I don't know, man. I need some sunshine in my life. I need a little bit of sun. That's what I'm saying.
I lived in South Carolina for 7 or 8 years, as you know. And it's different, man. You get used to the sun and you feel good about it. And I don't know, man. I mean, it's coming. Yeah. The daylight savings time, it's dark at 4:30. We're coming up on the longest day of the year, right? For darkness, the 21st. So we got that to look forward to. Man, oh man. Well, right out of the gate, I got to switch the audio back real quick for Chris, so he doesn't do the echo.
Oh yeah, that'll take me over the edge. The echo
I don't want it.
Send me over the edge.
I already can see where we're at. I'm gonna tread lightly. And make sure we keep the big fella happy over there. All right, so Ben, before we even launch the show, a couple of donations. We appreciate that, Ben.
Yeah.
Do we think that, and we're going to get into a lot of Jim Harbaugh talk today, obviously. We've got about 5, 6, maybe 7 topics to cover. So it's Wednesday, once a week show. We jump on when we need to. It's not quite like a full-blown fan-led, but if you have your questions, absolutely fire them off, and we'll get to them if we can. But when we're only doing a show a week, we stockpile these topics. We got to cover them a little bit, so that's where we're at. But Ben, right out of the gate, a couple donations. Do we think that Jim Harbaugh learned his lesson from his time with Trent Baalke and the Niners and went over Ward Manuel's head? I don't know exactly what you're talking about for sure, but the Ward Manuel absence is strange. Chris has brought this up to me multiple times. We don't really know. It's part of what we're going to get into when we talk about Harbaugh's return, President Santaono's involvement, and Ward Manuel. I don't.
Has anybody seen him?
Is he in a well? Like, I don't know where is he?
I'm not trying to be a dickhead when I say this. Are we even sure he's in Ann Arbor right now?
I don't know.
Does anybody know his whereabouts? Is he okay? Has anybody checked on Ward lately? Just very strange. This stretch of things that have happened related to the athletic department, and the dude that's tasked with running and overseeing and managing the athletic department is nowhere to be found. It's just strange.
A little bit MIA. And then Ben again, All this talk about the last dance, unfinished business. Yeah, Michigan now looking at 3 years in a row, hopefully, of beating Ohio State, winning a Big Ten, going to the playoff. We're going to talk about the future a little bit today too. I don't know. I'm not gonna put that juju in the air that it feels like 07 where the App State stuff and some injuries. And no, we're not gonna go there. But I wanted to throw Ben's things up there because he did give a couple donations before we even started. So appreciate that there, Ben. All right, we'll scroll down and get back to all right. John Bacon now apparently reporting that Jim and Ward Manuel haven't spoken since May. So that's healthy.
Yeah. It's going well.
What the hell, man? All right. So Chris, let's kick it off right at the top. Matt Weiss. Paging Matt Weiss. What are we doing?
One of the strangest things that I mean, talk about something out of left field. You get through, the just what it's like to have to cover the Jim Harbaugh situation every time this year. It's exhausting, man, because people want answers. They're looking for answers. You and I aren't insiders, so for the most part, we're trying to do. We're kind of in the same boat. We're in a position of we don't know what the hell's going on, but we can speculate and talk about what we think, and then you get through all of that, which is exhausting. And then you just move right into Matt Weiss being under investigation for just this, what is such a strange thing to be under investigation for. And I know that there's a lot of speculation, as is often the case on social media, about what it could pertain to. I don't really think it's fair to necessarily go into that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's not good. It's never good when you have, police officers and unmarked cars show up and, come knocking on your door and you're under investigation and it looks like there may have been a crime committed. And that's according to, the report that if you go onto the Michigan website where they sort of document all of these calls that come in, that's coming from that side. So it just seems like it's one thing after another, man. Like this offseason is just not off to a great start. Off to a great start for the offseason.
Can't get out of their own way. 2 years in a row of just phenomenal success on the field. And then, Harbaugh flying to Minnesota, Harbaugh interviewing with the Broncos, co-offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach involved in some form of computer crime. And now the things that have been
violations possibly.
Violations, yes.
Jim Harbaugh, even though he's back, could still very well be suspended for, one or multiple games to start out the season next year. And so, yeah, a lot of shit during this offseason that's come out that just kind of makes you scratch your head and think, it is way more difficult than it has to be. And it's the shitty part about it is that, to your point, it's coming off of so much success on the field that you would just like to see a program be, 10 toes down, all in, and just capitalizing. And instead, it's just, you're running against the current, swimming against the current because you're dealing with bullshit nonstop. It's exhausting, man.
Yeah. And, based on all the different reports that are out there, people who have, put information out there on this Matt Weiss situation, it looks like something to do with him accessing emails he shouldn't have been. I don't even know what that really means or why you would do that or what. Again, it's under investigation. There's not a ton of detail out there about it right now. But Matt Weiss put out a statement, saying I'm cooperating, I'm going along with it. This is going to be my only comment. It's just strange. I mean, violations, you're like, damn, really? Oh, that sucks. But every year there's schools that have to self-report these violations or something happens out on the trail. I mean, maybe Harbaugh gets suspended some games. That sucks. That's not a good look. You're like, well, okay, that blows, but that's program football recruiting related. You see it occasionally. It sucks. Don't do it, but okay. But then you're like, computer crimes from the OC. What the hell is happening? What is he doing?
I was laying on the couch last night after you sent me that, and my wife and I, we were watching a show, and I was like, I had her pause the show, which, by the way, Netflix, $18.99, phenomenal show. There's only one season of it, which is it's very disappointing, but it's a total mind trip if you're into that sort of thing. If you're into thrillers, edge of your seat, sort of, weird, heady type stuff, I would recommend watching it. $18.99. But nevertheless, so we put it on pause. You send me that text, and you're like, "Hey, did you see this Weiss stuff?" And I'm like, "What happened? Did he take another job? What's the deal?" And if you would have asked me, like, what are the top 100 things you think you're about to see when you go on and search for it, that would not have been none of my answers would have been computer crimes from Matt Weiss. So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how you avoid some of this stuff other than just not being weird and just doing your damn job and like capitalizing on success. And like I said, as a fan of the program, it's frustrating. It is a frustrating start to the offseason when you feel like Michigan could be doing so much better in all facets, given all the success that they've had on the football field.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I can't remember. I mean, not at Michigan, certainly, but I don't even know if I've ever heard of such a thing like computer crimes, a football coach under investigation for computer crimes, dealing with unauthorized email access on campus. Like, he's doing it in Schembechler Hall. Like, what is going on?
Or was he at home accessing things in Schembechler Hall? That's how I took it, was that there was
I'm pretty sure they said it took place like inside the football building. But again, this is where there's been a lot of reports that have come out. We'll wait till the end of this thing. I'd be surprised if Matt Weiss is back. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how serious of a thing this is. I mean, word has been that him and Harbaugh haven't exactly been buddy for a little bit anyway. At one point they were. Like, he was one of Harbaugh's kind of right-hand men when it came to the Minnesota job search stuff last year, but since then there's been a little falling out. He's weird kind of in general. Like, I'm not taking a shot, but he's just, he doesn't ooze charisma like some of the other assistant coaches do, and he's not a good recruiter. So, like, I don't know. Maybe this is somebody texted me and was like, this is really weird, bad look for the program, sucks for momentum, but is this like addition by subtraction?
Maybe. I was going to say, I know that the both of us have not been, and a lot of fans out there haven't been a big fan of this co-OC, triple OC, if you throw Harbaugh into it. And so getting one less cook out of the kitchen, I certainly don't see a problem with it. But I do remember, talking with some of the players about it, like JJ McCarthy specifically had said that, Matt Weiss is one of the, brightest minds, called him a genius, I think, when we did that interview with him last year. There's some guys that think pretty highly of him and what he brings to the table. But yeah, I think from our standpoint, if Matt Weiss isn't back, and it's nothing personal against him, but again, it's just, I don't feel like the right move is to have multiple offensive coordinators. And so if he's not in the fold, then I don't know how huge of a loss it is.
Yeah. So there you go. So that's the Matt Weiss situation. Just weird. I don't know how long it'll be until there's a full resolution or what exactly is going to happen, but it's strange. There's really no other way to categorize it. On the Harbaugh front, apparently he's back. Look, here's the deal.
Now go easy, Brandon.
No. I'm not, because even in his statement about like being back, it still kind of sucked. Like, my heart's at Michigan. Don't out happy. All right. Can you just say, I'm the freaking coach for the team next season? Even still, it's not like.
Well, he told Ono that apparently, and Ono conveyed that. I mean, that's
great.
That's not as solid of a statement as you're going to get from him is through somebody else who heard.
And apparently via Adam Schefter, he told the Broncos, I'm out, which I just can't help but think of like the movie Life. Martin Lawrence, Eddie Murphy. Martin Lawrence tries to appeal to get himself out of prison. The appeal falls through. So then he at that point, then he wants to work with Eddie Murphy to try to escape. He's like, so what do you got? You got a plan for us? Do you think we can do it? And Eddie Murphy's like, we get some bad news in that letter back there, motherfucker. Because like all of a sudden, now you want to be my partner in this thing. I just feel like Harbaugh got word. Job's not like, all right, here's what I'm going to throw it up. I don't care. I don't care. This is 2 years in a row. He has lied about it at this point. I'm done. I'm not doing it again. Well, you did it again. That's what it is, Chris. That's what it is.
That's not fair.
That's fair. That is fair. It's completely fair.
Well, okay, it's fair. Listen, it's fair to speculate that maybe that was the reason. But here's what I'll say. Given Ward's lack of involvement in all of this, and when you look at, the statements, the multiple statements, as weird as they may be, as vague as they may be, that Harbaugh has put out, the multiple statements that President Ono has put out, not once has Harbaugh mentioned Ward Manuel. Yeah. And Ono has only mentioned Ward Manuel in the sense that I've communicated to Ward what's happening, as if Ward hasn't been a part of these things. And so that, based on the many reports that came out, just like what, we just heard John U. Bacon apparently reported, there is some issue there between Jim Harbaugh and Ward Manuel. And I feel like if Jim was trying to drive the point home, it was like, look, I'm going to go and do this until we can get something figured out with this guy, because I can't work with this guy. I can't get what I need from this guy. And if Ward Manuel has served as a roadblock and Ono has come in and sort of paved the way and allowed Harbaugh to go around him, then, I hate buying into the idea that the NFL was leveraged, because I do think there's legitimate interest from Jim Harbaugh in returning. Yeah. But if you can't get what you want from the athletic director, that's a big problem. And I think if not for Ono being in the position he's in, Jim Harbaugh probably isn't making that call to Denver saying, I'm not interested. I'm not going to pursue this. I think there's probably a very real chance that Michigan loses Harbaugh to the NFL. Is that because he doesn't have interest in the NFL? No, I wouldn't say that. But I mean, my goodness, like, there's clearly an issue, right? Like, I'm not reading too much into that. There is an issue between Jim Harbaugh and the athletic director, and that's a big deal, especially when the president has to come in and close the deal and facilitate all the things that should be done by the athletic director. It's weird.
I will say I was pretty wrong too. I did not think that Santa Ono was going to be this involved with whatever's going on.
Extremely involved.
I didn't. I didn't think that was what his focus was going to be. And I was wrong. I mean, he was clearly involved. He put out multiple statements on Twitter. He's been on the phone with him. He's been doing this. He's been doing that. So that part is strange, that it's him doing all the things that you would expect Ward Manuel to be doing. For whatever reason, he's not. And back to the whole, not speaking since May, I wonder on what level that is, because they sat next to each other during the Michigan State thing and we're up there talking. So I'm not, I'm not questioning Bacon. The dude knows what he's talking about. Maybe he was could have been a little more specific about, maybe it's contract talks or behind closed doors meeting type of talks. But Ward Manuel and Jim Harbaugh sat shoulder to shoulder next to each other after the tunnel incident against Michigan State and took questions, and I'm sure communicated a little bit. But what semantics? That's a small detailed type of thing. But yeah, the whole approach, how the president seems to be the one negotiating things when geez, man, he doesn't have other things to do, when it should be the sole job of the athletic director. And whether you're a Ward fan or not, and I'm really not, I'm kind of indifferent on Ward Manuel. I think he's done some good. He's boned some things. His absence is weird at times, and I don't really know what he's doing. It's strange, but
to not put out a single statement.
It's weird, dude. It is
on anything is weird. I mean, even if it's a short, one sentence, I'm aware of X, Y, and Z, or here's where I stand on this. To not say anything publicly and to be in that position is just, it's strange. And I saw somebody bring it up. No, I'm not positive that President Ono closed any deal, because to my knowledge, nothing has been signed yet. There's the tweets that have come out that said Jim Harbaugh has expressed that he wants to be back, and reportedly, Harbaugh has said he's not interested in these NFL positions. But to my knowledge, not an insider, there's no deal that's been signed at this point. And so,
I think part of that is the NCAA violation thing that's kind of looming. I've read, I don't know if it's officially against the rules, but you can't give a guy a new contract when there's violations hanging over his head and you don't know what they're going
to do. For a hamburger, Brandon? For a hamburger.
Yeah, that's all it was. It was one burger, one cheeseburger, and that's it. No, but I just think it might be an official rule. Maybe you actually can't enter into negotiations with something pending from the NCAA. I don't know, but whatever. Yeah. I think that's a big part of the reason why there's a little bit of a hang up right now. At the end of the day, I don't think it ultimately matters that much. Even if Jim Harbaugh gets drilled with like a 6-game suspension. He's still going to sign a deal. He's still going to get a contract extension, and it's going to be lucrative, and it should be. The 2-year run has been incredible. And
going back to your original talking point, so you legitimately don't think if Jim Harbaugh had continued to pursue NFL opportunities that he would have had a shot at taking them, or at getting whatever position, whether it be with Denver, whether it be with Indianapolis, any of these other jobs. You think it was strictly a matter of those offers just weren't coming?
I think that's what it's been for 3 years now. Definitely wasn't getting any after 2 and 4, even though it was pretty clear he was fed up with a lot of things and wanted to leave. Last year, went to go to Minnesota and take the job. They kind of pulled the rug out from under him and said, "Oh, I guess I'll come back now." Had a great run, was incredible, and now I think again was out there. And we heard it was from Harbaugh's end, reaching out to teams to find out. It wasn't the other way. Yeah. And I saw people in the comments. The NFL they're hiring coaches younger than you and me now, Chris. 34, 35, 36-year-old dudes running NFL teams who are offensive-minded, who are new school. I mean, that's just the way that things are moving. It seems like every guy who's and I'm not saying like, I'm trying to think of an example, like a Lovie Smith, whatever. Like Harbaugh's a far better coach than him, but I'm saying that's a dude pushing 60. He's been in the NFL before. It's like one and done, dude. Like these guys get a job. If they're no good, get them the hell out of here. We'll go find somebody else. It's these younger guys, the McConnell at Minnesota, who just had a really nice run, is his 30s. McDaniel down there in Miami, another young guy. McVay, a lot of Irish dudes. Anyway, these young guys, this is the way that the league is moving. So there has been no report ever since any of this has happened about Jim Harbaugh having an acceptable, committable offer from an NFL team. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty clear.
Yeah. No, there hasn't been. I guess, and again, speculating, but I feel like if he had continued to pursue it strongly, I don't know that he would have gotten an offer with a team that he wanted, but I do think he had a legitimate shot at getting that. But I think all of these other things, the NCAA violations, the issues with Ward that, couldn't be more apparent, I think certainly played a role in him, having either personally or his people reach out to other teams and sort of get this thing going as a way to say, look, I'm prepared to make this move if we can't get it figured out here. I mean, this is the longest he's ever been anywhere. He's entering his 9th season, right? Yeah. His head coach. So I think he wants to be here. I think he wants to be the coach at the University of Michigan, but I think there's some things that he wants fixed. And I think a lot of that probably has to do with Ward's lack of involvement or lack of movement on certain topics, certain issues that would certainly help the Michigan football program overall, whether it be NIL, whether it be recruiting, things you're able to do from recruiting, transfers, things like that. I think he just wants certain things that he's not getting.
This is I don't disagree with what you're saying, Chris, and I think maybe this is where a lot of people have had issue with what I've said in the past. Maybe I haven't articulated it well enough. I firmly believe Jim, like if he made a pro and con list of I want an NFL job, I want a Michigan job, I think there could be like 50 pros on both lists. And that like I think he's perfectly happy and content and fine with being at Michigan, but I think he also really wants to go back and try it again in the NFL. I don't think those things have to exist separately. I think he can want both and have it be a really tough freaking decision. If he were to get a lucrative, signable 3 or 4 or 5 year deal from the Denver Broncos, and that's sitting right there. And he's also got a fat extension from Michigan with some new promises, a bigger pool for his assist, and they're both right there to sign.
Yeah.
I think that's a really hard decision for him to make, and I don't know which one he would have picked. And that's like I said, maybe I haven't explained.
Proves your point. I think last year proves your point. I mean, he didn't take that flight to Minnesota just as a negotiation tactic. I think there was legit. Well, here's the thing: we know that's not what it was because Jim Harbaugh himself specifically said that he had interest in an NFL return.
Got the itch.
So again, there is a certain segment of the fan base that will have convinced themselves and will never believe otherwise that all of this is just an act to get more leverage at the University of Michigan. But no, there's absolutely no doubt that from his side, from his own mouth, he has interest in an NFL return. I just think the preference is to remain at Michigan. But there are things here that, make the job difficult, whether it's academics, whether it's, an athletic director who's MIA, who's not all in on NIL, who doesn't want to, play some of the games that some of these other Power 5 programs are willing to play. And Michigan's right there on the cusp of being able to compete with them for national championships here the last 2 years. And so if you could get that final push, if you could get some of those things that you want from an athletic director, I mean, is for as good as of a position this program is in right now, the fact that it could be even better if you had an athletic director that wanted to wiggle a little bit and give a little bit, that probably chaps your ass a little bit if you're Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah. I mean, it's been what you don't want. I mean, like, I don't think that's just kind of the way to put it in a nice big box. Like, everything that's happened over the last 2 seasons during the offseason, January, even into February a little bit last year, is what you don't want after the seasons you've had, whether it's Ward
very
Manuel.
Dysfunctional, man. Just very dysfunctional.
So last year, and this year you got Ward Manuel doing whatever he's doing, and Schlissel was, what the hell, who knows? And now Ono's got to be involved. It's been all over the map, and it shouldn't have been. There should have been a lot more positives instead of all of this uncertainty and negative. And
I mean, do you think Ward Manuel's a dead man walking right now, or do you think he's going to be? It's weird to me. I don't know how he can be this silent, be clearly absent from every single statement that Jim Harbaugh has put out. Now, again, there are more sports than just the football program that are included in the athletic department, but this seems odd.
But a lot of them exist because of football, and Ward knows that, and the university knows that, and a lot of what the whole school gets to do is because of what happens on fall Saturdays. So, it is really important. It's not Ward's only concern. It's not President Ono's only concern at all.
Damn sure.
But they're both involved in it because they understand the cash cow that is Michigan football. Like, it is what it is. I don't know. I don't know how to answer the Ward Manuel question. For one, I'm going to be completely honest. I just don't really care. I really don't care. Like,
no.
Bringing in AD, I don't care who it is. Like, I really don't. Unless it's like, I don't. I was gonna say, I don't care. I just really don't care who it is, and that's part of the reason I haven't put a lot of emphasis or energy or attention into learning about Ward Manuel as an athletic director, what he's done, what he hasn't done, but the sheer fact of just being gone for all of this is just bizarre. I mean, that on the surface looks weird. I saw somebody in the comments say, when you've got your president coming out on social media, like talking about your football coach coming back because of phone calls he's having with him, it's like, wait a minute, don't we have a guy that's supposed to do that? Like,
and then also saying that he relayed the message to the athletic director as if like, why wasn't Ward on that call? That's weird. It's weird.
Tell Ward that, like, like you see that in like movies where people are in the same room but they won't talk to each other. It's like they have a middleman. Like, seems very strange. All right,
well, it's clear that Ward's not in the room. That's clear.
Steve Deese burner account, really appreciate that. Love the username. So far, it looks like Ward Manuel's not doing his job to the level that he should be. I could probably get on board with that. From the surface, it certainly looks and feels like that. Now, like Chris said, I don't know what he's doing day to day, minute by minute in his office behind closed doors, who he's on the phone with, I don't know. But out in the forefront, in the public eye, he's falling short. I feel comfortable saying that.
Yeah.
What's best for Michigan over his own personal views, issues with Harbaugh, whatever they may be. Maybe they're not even there. Maybe it just looks like it's perceived that way. I don't know. But if Bacon's coming out and saying they haven't talked in damn near a year, like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, well,
Ward might need to go. I
saw him speaking on the sideline during the course of the season. I think at the Indiana game, they were standing there having a conversation. I mean, Ward is. That's the other thing. I mean, he's present at the football games. I've seen Harbaugh and Ward talking on the sideline, so it's not like they're not communicating at all. But again, when you have Jim Harbaugh, who's a guy who doesn't really put out that many statements anyway, putting out multiple statements, and then you have the university president putting out multiple statements, one of which includes Jim Harbaugh told me X, Y, and Z, and then I communicated that to the athletic director.
Listen,
that is a terrible look if you're the athletic director.
Let me ask you this. Again, I'm not a staunch Ward Manuel supporter. I'm not. I'm just trying to look at this thing
Ward. Just say it. You love Ward Manuel.
Listen. What did Jim Harbaugh say to him last year, Chris?
Well, there you go. Yeah, that it wasn't going to happen again.
You think he's pumped? about what's going on?
You think his ass was chapped a little bit? You think Ward was feeling a little bit? You know what? Like, fuck this. I'm not dealing with it. Santa, you want to deal with it? You deal with it. I'm not touching this.
He would not be the first person to react that way to one Jim Harbaugh. It's a pretty long track record of dudes who are signing up for that club.
But here's the thing. If Ward felt that way, then he should just come out and say it. And this is where I take issue is I
don't think you get many people doing that in that position. But
I mean, you know what? But at this point, can he look any worse? I mean, look at how he's perceived at this point. He's perceived as the roadblock to Jim Harbaugh returning, and that he's been MIA while all this has been going on. Now, he doesn't have to come out and be harsh in his statement, but he hasn't. His voice. There's three main components to this: Ward Manuel, Santa Ono, and Jim Harbaugh. And there's only one guy who's yet to say a damn thing publicly, and that's Ward Manuel. And so people are drawing their own conclusions. And, I do think you make a fair point. If, Jim Harbaugh is entering the second year of a 5-year deal that he just signed last year. And when he came back last year, we all know what he said. We've beat that dead horse. And so if Ward was feeling some kind of way about it, I was feeling some kind of way about it. I specifically said, like, are we really doing this again? Because if we are, just fire his ass and let's move on.
Yeah.
And then that was my position. And it wasn't until I started to hear more things come out about how, well, maybe Ward is the issue here. I don't know. Again, it's weird that he's had nothing to say. There's a lot that's happened with the program, over the last, 17 days. I mean, dude, it hasn't even been that long since the last game. We're talking like 3 weeks. A lot has happened, and he hasn't had a damn thing to say about it publicly. I just find it strange.
It's like, how many days has it been? 17?
Something like that. Yeah, I mean, it's what, January?
It was December 31st, and it's only the 18th. Right. Yeah, it's been not even 3 weeks. Feel like we've been doing this for 6 months.
It's wild, man. You got the Matt Weiss thing. You've got the Harbaugh NFL thing. You've got the NCAA violations thing. You got a lot of shit that an athletic director could come out and just say something about. And he said nothing. Yeah. And it's just wild to me.
It's like how you see those before and after pictures, like when a president enters office and then 4 years later they look 90. They're like, they're just downtrodden and look like a emaciated dead body sitting in the Oval Office. Like, fuck this.
It can't happen again, right? Surely we won't be here this time next year having these same conversations.
I think we might be, and don't call me Shirley, Chris. All right, next.
There is no way this happens again. No way. It can't. It won't. I'm telling you, it can't, and it won't.
You're speaking as if you're talking about a normal human.
We just can't, dude. I can't. I'll go insane. I will. You know what I'll do? I'll just take my laptop and I'll close it.
Close her down.
Whenever there's a goddamn decision, then I'll open it back up and I'll talk about it. But until then, I'm not participating in any of it. It is exhausting.
It is exhausting. All right, well, let's move on to the next topic. I'm sure this is the last time we'll be talking about this. So, yeah, we could probably take a break on it a little bit right now. But, Chris, you brought this to my attention. I don't know. I think it was an interview that Donovan Edwards did with a newspaper. Was it a newspaper? M Live?
No, I think he talked. Yeah, I think it might have been with M Live. I'm not really sure exactly who it was with. I just remember reading it. But Donovan Edwards, Colson Loveland, and Will Johnson took part in a football camp over the weekend. They were hosting a camp. I think it was somewhere in Auburn Hills. And there were a couple quotes that came out from Donovan Edwards that I just, quite frankly, I thought were interesting. And then you and I talked about it a little bit. And, I want to be careful in how we address this, because by no means am I saying that there's an issue between, Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum, or that there's any sort of problem there, or whatever the case is. But that being said, when Blake Corum announced that he was coming back for another year, at the very least, that cut Donovan Edwards' production in half in 2023.
I would say more, but you're right. Yes.
At least 50% cut, boom, right there. And I'm just going to let me read a couple of the quotes that came out, and then we can talk about it a little bit. And so Donovan Edwards, talking about Blake Corum's return, he said, quote, "I'm excited for him, but at the same time, it has its positives and negatives. I wanted to see him go to the NFL. I didn't want him having another 250 plus carries on his body, That's putting stuff on him. I don't want to see that. I want to see him go get paid. He also said, it's no reason I shouldn't be on the field. No reason I shouldn't be getting playing time. The dynamic player that I am, the coaches know how versatile I am. The world might not know just yet, but I've been showing it. And so it sounds to me like I don't doubt that those guys are boys, and I don't doubt that the brotherhood is going to be there and that they're going to be able to coexist. But there is certainly an element to Blake Corum's return that I think, Donovan Edwards is coming out and saying, like, look, I'm that guy too, and I need to be on the field, and there's no reason why I shouldn't be on the field. And so I think he even alluded to, I think the carries need to be a little more even this year. I think they will be more. I think they're going to find a way to get me more involved. I just thought it was interesting because we talk about all the depth that Michigan has at several positions, and traditionally that's a good thing to have. But in today's college football, having depth, having multiple starters at several positions almost feels like a catch-22, because if you're a guy who feels like, man, I could be, RB1, or I could be the starting tackle somewhere, I could be this or I could be that, the portal's just sitting right there available and ready. And so having a bunch of depth can almost work against you. I don't know that that's going to happen in this case. I don't think it will. But it was interesting to see that from Donovan Edwards' perspective. We were all excited, like, yes, Blake Corum's back. Like, Jesus, this Michigan team's going to be solid. And if you're Donovan Edwards, you're probably like, there had to have been a part of him that was like, fuck.
Yeah, so
I was going to be the dude.
When we were talking about this, I said, dude, they can be best friends in the world. He said it, I wanted Blake to go pro because he's good enough to go pro, and he's about to get paid. Yeah. And now he's going to come back. He's going to get beat up, and knock on wood, God, you hope he stays healthy. I mean, obviously he got hurt this year. You don't want that again for your guy. And that's all. I believe Donovan Edwards means all of that when he says it. But they could be the best friends in the world. But in an instant, the second Blake Corum announced that he's coming back, Donovan Edwards' vision of his junior year at Michigan changed dramatically. It's a completely different look, completely different mindset, completely different approach and preparation, a completely different set of goals for yourself. I mean, everything from top to bottom, from practice reps to what you're putting on film to what coach is going to be able to tell NFL scouts. Every single thing about his junior year is now different. And that's a lot.
Just to add to that, in that same interview, or in that same set of interviews where he was talking to members of the media, you talk about people not being transparent or they're not sure about what they're going to do. He said very specifically, look, my plan is to go pro after next year. That's what my plan is. I am going pro after next year. And so if that's his mindset, like, of course he wants to get as many reps on the field as he possibly can. And yeah, you're right. Like I said, when we first started off, in an instant, in that decision that, Corum was coming back, probably his vision of what he thought his junior season was going to look like versus because there's no question who running back number one is. It's Blake Corum. And it's going to be Blake Corum unless Blake Corum gets injured again in a similar set of circumstances. But I do think there's got to be a way, and let's be fair, Donovan Edwards was also injured for a good portion of the season last year as well. And so that limited, his production quite a bit. But if both of those guys are healthy, you have got to find a way to get both involved. And I think they will. I just thought it was an interesting, to hear Donovan Edwards speak so candidly and honestly about his thoughts and feelings. And here's where I stand on it. Here's how I feel about it. Here's what my intentions are after next year. I just found it to be refreshing, but I also found it to be interesting. I started thinking about, we were gushing over the depth, and we'll probably talk about it later in the show, how deep Michigan is at several positions. And just wondering if at this point in college football, if that almost works against you in a big way.
It's got to be balanced way differently than it did even 5 years ago. There's no question about that. CJ Frazier, I love the point, and you can find other examples in the NFL and around college football where you just get guys on the field and you find ways to get them the ball. Look, the San Francisco 49ers have a plethora of offensive weapons, and they make it work. They make it work with George Kittle, and they make it work with Christian McCaffrey, and they make it work with Deebo Samuel, and they make it work with Elijah Mitchell. They've got a lot of guys that they have to feed, and somehow they've been able to get them all involved, and they all seem happy, and they're all making plays. Didn't even mention Brandon Ayuk and some of the other receivers on the outside. Like, that would be a good blueprint to look at. How are they using a guy like Deebo Samuel, who's listed as a wide receiver, but takes handoffs out of the backfield. He takes jet screens. He takes bubble screens. He takes little push passes. Like, you do all of those things with guys who can make plays. Donovan Edwards can make plays. We all saw it. He's got to be on the field a lot. But yeah, it's an interesting discussion for him to have. Now, actually, in the long run, it may end up being a good thing because you might save 200 carries or something from his body. And NFL teams absolutely look at that. They look at how much tread you've got left on the tires, how much, what was your workload like in college? And honestly, Donovan Edwards' workload hasn't been very much yet.
Right.
I mean, he was used sparingly as a freshman. He was hurt and dinged up a little bit this last year as a sophomore, and then obviously stepped up when Blake Corum went down. And now he's coming back and going to share the backfield again with Blake Corum. So I don't know, man. It is a bit of a catch-22. You want to stockpile as much talent as humanly possible, with the caveat of knowing that at the drop of a hat they can leave and go somewhere else because they want to play more. And so that's what makes it difficult about managing a college football roster nowadays. And I honestly think Jim Harbaugh has done that as good as anybody in the country. And that's part of what we're going to get into in these next two position groups anyway, as we look at a little bit of a preview for 2023. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's only one ball. There's only one ball. I mean, look, we know they're going to run it a ton. I mean, you could give each of them 20 carries a game next year, and it's not going to be all that different from what they've done the last two seasons. Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. I still think there's going to be enough to go around for both of them, but you can't help but feel what Donovan Edwards is feeling. And I don't know. Do you think he delivered the message he was trying to deliver? Like, I mean, we're kind of playing a hypothetical game here, but do you think he said what he meant to say and how he meant to say it? Or do you think he's like a little more miffed than maybe he's leading on? I don't know. I find it, Donovan's a good dude. Blake's a good dude. They both work. They both are all about the team, but like, running back's a position you gotta get the rock, man. You have to.
In much the same way that the Harbaugh situation, that two things can be true at the same time. That's how I feel about what Donovan Edwards said. I truly think that, him and Blake have a great relationship, and that, the thing that they were pushing last year. I mean, I think that there is a part of him that's excited about, and he did go on to say that, not having Blake is probably why they didn't win the national championship. Like, he was an important piece. Like, we needed Blake Corum. So I do think that he's excited to have him back and excited to be able to, go at it again together. But you can't, we're all human beings, and we all, being in that position, you can't tell me that he wouldn't prefer to be the guy who's getting the bulk of the carries and be the starting running back. And that's just not going to be the case in 2023, again, unless another injury occurs. That's Blake Corum's starting job until somebody says otherwise. And so, yeah, I'm again, two things can be true. I think he's excited about having Blake back, but I think there's a part of him that was like, damn, well, that's not going to go the way I thought it was going to go. Especially if he's, fully intent on going pro after next year.
Burner account back in the house. I agree. I think Donovan Edwards can be deployed and used in many, many ways. You can split carries, if it's an even split, or if it's like a 2/3 type of thing, for every 15 Blake Corum carries, you got 10 Donovan Edwards carries, and then Donovan also gets targeted 6 or 5 or 6 times.
And I get that this isn't going to happen, but an ideal scenario is look at what they did against Penn State. I don't remember what the carry load was, but both guys were north of 150 yards rushing. Both guys had over 15 carries, I believe. And so, yeah, given the way the Michigan offense is built, you got, we're going to talk about the offensive line a little bit, but it looks like that O-line is going to be extremely solid. They're going to have two very good backs in the backfield. I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan's running it 45, 50 times on average. And if you split those carries between the two, that gives each of those guys plenty of opportunity to showcase what they're able to do in this Michigan offense.
Yeah, and just, again, the next two topics we're going to talk about are kind of opposite sides of the coin when it comes to what we're speaking about. The depth on this roster, the depth on this team. Oh, Chris, I was going to ask, are we doing sponsorship stuff? We're in a new calendar year now. Do we need to give some love to the homies out there? What are we doing?
No, we are done until otherwise. Yeah, we're We're flying free here, Brandon.
So to put a bow on that a little bit, though, because I do feel like just ignoring it all together. I mean, we've done it all year. You guys know who they are. We've got Rich and Mediascapes. We've got Wolverine State Brewing Company. I'm repping the shirt right here. We had the Army National Guard, Michigan branch over in Grand Ledge. Chris, if you could maybe rattle off some of the other ones that were more like a one-off, or we had like a couple week-long ones, if you can remember. There was a dance studio, right?
Yeah. I don't remember what the name of the. Yeah, I'd have to go back and look.
I'm putting you on the spot. I apologize here, but I just wanted to. I know, but I wanted we're getting ready to move into another segment. We're 45 minutes.
Vibe Well was one. It was Vibe Well, so it was a health drinks, health food, health lifestyle. And then I can't remember the exact name of what the dance studio was, but yeah, we had a couple of sponsors come in and help fund with some of those tailgates, because man, those tailgates were expensive.
Yes.
Still plan on doing a couple of those for the upcoming year. It's probably going to look a little bit different. Do fewer tailgates, but the ones we do on a bigger scale. But yeah, man, we were fortunate this year to partner with a lot of great groups, man. And Mediascapes is one of those. I know we'll talk about it later in the show, but the interview that I did with Mozzie over the weekend, man, like you walk into the room and it was like, I don't know, it was like Dateline or something like that was like set up with like all of the camera equipment that Rich had. It was just incredible. We're very fortunate, no doubt.
Very, very fortunate. And I'm certain we will continue to work with some of them on, potentially different projects and maybe different levels. And obviously some of the stuff we did in 2022, we're not going to need to do again in 2023 either. So there's some natural things that will change. But yeah, it's been really fun. And I mean, we've made friends too. Like, we're not going to stop talking to Rich. We're not going to stop talking to Jared Johnson. We're not going to stop talking to Nate and everybody at Wolverine State Brewing Company, even if some of those things do change a little bit. So shout out to all of them. We are into 2023. If they pop back up and they feel like continuing this journey with us, we will let you know. But everything that we've done with them has been on the up and up, and we would strongly encourage you guys to do the same thing with the people that we've been mentioning all year long. So there you go. So now it's just a couple of dinks, dude. We got no interruptions, no sponsorships to throw up there. Yeah, nothing, dude.
Just us right now.
Just a couple of dinks. All right,
faces.
Chris, I'm getting ready to put together an article about this. The cornerback position, DB, defensive back, corner, opposite Will Johnson. Number 2, Will Johnson might be an All-American next year. He's a sophomore. He's never coming off the field. Kid's a stud. Probably only got him for 3 years at Michigan, going to play in the league. He's the real deal. You were going to put up, I know you talked about it, one of the highest rated corners in the country, period. And I think was one of the highest rated players in the country as a freshman per Pro Football Focus. So the kid's the real deal. Everybody saw it. We all know it. Cool. Opposite Will Johnson, however, with Jamon Green leaving, with DJ Turner leaving, with guys that are, kind of in the air a little bit when it comes to their position versatility, I find it very interesting to have a discussion about what that position looks like and who might end up being the guy opposite Will Johnson. So I want to throw a couple names out, and we'll just rap back and forth about what we might think and who we might end up seeing over there.
Yeah.
Going in order by jersey number 1, dude. The one. It's Drippy. Jaden McBurrows. Unfortunately, he's probably known more now for getting jumped in the tunnel by a bunch of Spartan idiots than he is his play. He's dealt with some injuries, but back when he was a true freshman, he was getting some talk about being very physical, very fast, pretty sticky in coverage, and now we're all kind of waiting to see could it be a chance for Jaden McBurrows to jump up at 5'11", 206 pounds. I mean, the dude's put together, built differently than some of the other corners on the team. Could it be a shot for him to step in over there?
I mean, I think as it stands right now, it's probably the most sure bet, as sure as you can get, given what they have on the other side. But, we talked about this earlier, is that, people can think and say and feel whatever they want about Jamon Green and what he brought to the table. But having that experience return, I just felt like opposite of Will Johnson, like Michigan would have been in a great spot. And when you look around at the roster and the depth that they have, the corner position is a bit concerning. And as it stands right now, it looks like looks like McBurrows might be the first guy opposite of Will Johnson to take that starting spot.
Yep. Shane Johnson, real quick, we'll throw that up there. The Don's demeanor was odd talking about Blake Corum. I don't know if I'd say odd. I think he was just kind of letting it flow, man. I mean, like, Donovan Edwards is kind of like that. He doesn't have a great.
He is not interested in.
Doesn't have a great filter, and I love it. I'm
right,
all
that's
for
what
it.
I'm saying he's not. He is probably the exact opposite of what Jim Harbaugh is when it comes to like saying, like, if whatever Donovan Edwards feels in that moment in time, he's just going to say whatever he feels, and that's the way it is. And that's one of the things that I absolutely love about him. And so I don't think it was a negative. I think, sometimes people, they don't know how to take it when they're talking to a straight shooter and somebody who's just saying what they feel, because that's so rare in today's world. And I respect him for it, man. And I think a lot of what he said was real. And, he wants to touch the ball more. He feels like he's gifted. He feels like he should be out there. And you're not going to find a Michigan fan, at least in this fan base, that's going to disagree.
And Shane, I don't disagree with maybe getting just a tad stronger. I mean, he is still a young back. Blake Corum added 15 pounds, I think, from his sophomore to junior year. I think you could see some of that from Donovan Edwards. He could add a little bit more to the core and a little bit more to the lower body. He took some hits this year that I'm like, I've never seen Blake Corum get hit like that. He runs a little more upright. He's a little more stretched out. So it's a different body type, different running style. But yeah, he could benefit from a little bit more muscle and a little more weight, just like every single college football player could from year 1 to 2 to 3. I mean, like, that's what happens. And I think that's fair. I don't think where he's at right now is holding him back, but I think he could be better with a little bit more weight and a little more power. So yeah, we'll see what that ends up looking like. All right. Moving past Jaden McBurrows, you've got Keon Sabb, number 3, listed as a DB on Michigan's roster. Again, Michigan doesn't differentiate between cornerback, nickelback, free safety, strong safety. They all just say DB, so that makes it a little tricky. Keon Sabb was a very highly rated safety coming out of IMG Academy High School, but he's been getting some run at cornerback. Super talented, super athletic, was wanted by everybody in coming out of high school. We just haven't seen him play. I don't know how much you can really break down what he is as a player other than looking at what he was thought of as a recruit and kind of what he might be, now at 6'1", 208 pounds at Michigan.
I think that's where I'm at with a lot of these guys, because
it is.
We just haven't seen him play. I mean, he was what, a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. I know that he was recruited by a lot of Power 5 programs, but just didn't really get any run his freshman year. Might have played a little bit on special teams, but that's about it. So I think at this point, getting beyond McBurrows, you're in crapshoot territory, especially if we're going in numerical order here and you're about to say number 4. I mean, we might as well with Keon Sabb. Talented, has the ability to do it, but again, haven't really seen anything at the collegiate level yet that would lead me to believe like, oh yeah, he's going to be the guy opposite Will Johnson.
You let the cat out of the bag a little, Chris. I'm going to let it slide.
Yes, I did.
I'm going to stick with just the DBs for now and come back to the guy. That
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Because that one's just as intriguing as any of the other ones. Yeah. Number 12, Cody Jones. Looks like the next nickel guy. I could be wrong on that, but he's built just like Mike Sainristil, 5'11", $193, really good short space quickness. I don't know if I'd want him guarding 6'4" outside receivers like Quentin Johnston or some of these guys that we saw for TCU. But again, a guy we haven't seen a lot of, was another pretty highly recruited kid out of Tennessee. I don't know. I don't know what he's going to bring to the table, but he's built more like a traditional corner or nickelback than maybe a McBurrows or maybe number 4, who you mentioned a minute ago, which we will get to Omari and Walker in a moment.
Yeah. I mean, a little bit on the shorter side. Again, you're not going to want him, out covering, the whoever the opposing team is, their big wide receiver targets necessarily. But I mean, it's good, dude. I'm going to give you the same answer for a lot of these guys. Haven't seen enough out of him. Don't know what he brings to the table. Maybe we'll get to see some of it in the spring, but on Cody Jones, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Well, I'm going to have you hit the play it again one more time with this last guy, and then the final two that we will talk about.
Let's play it again.
The final two that we will talk about, I think we'll be able to offer up a little bit more. Miles Pollard, number 24, long, 6'1", 191, built a little bit more like Will Johnson, can really run. Is viewed more of as a raw prospect, wasn't super heavily recruited coming out of Tennessee. I think the same high school as Junior Colson, if I'm not mistaken. But longer, again, 6'1", 191, kind of has that look of like a lockdown outside corner. But again, Chris, if you'd like to take the floor here.
I'm going to give you the same answer. Haven't
seen
seen enough of it. And I think, again, what we're saying, it speaks to the lack of depth at that position.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys are unknown. A lot of them came in from high school, highly rated, a lot of excitement. Like I remember Keon Sabb when Michigan
He was
landed
the big one.
I was very, very excited about that. Just didn't get a lot of run. And so, we'll have to wait and see in the spring and see how some of this shakes out.
Okay. Omarion Walker, number 4.
6'4".
Actually threw on the number 1 jersey and played some corner early in the year when Jaden McBurrows was out with injury and Michigan was beaten up on their non-conference schedule, and they were just trying to get a look at some guys. Omarion Walker ended up playing wide receiver, I think, almost entirely down the stretch. I don't remember him ever in games anyways doing anything else with corner after maybe like week 3. But he's got some ability there. There were some teams, I think Notre Dame was one. There were multiple teams in the country recruiting that dude as a DB. Was it, is it a safety? Is it corner? But yeah, you mentioned it, dude. 6'4". I'm going to try to get the weight that he's listed. He's probably bigger than that now if I had to guess. But 6'4", 180. So he's lean, but the potential, the athleticism, he was labeled as a freak by Jim Harbaugh on spring ball, can jump out of the gym. And I've seen Will Johnson putting on for him a little bit in the past. Yeah. So like that, you can get a little bit excited about that, but there's a ton of intrigue with a dude like that.
There is a lot of intrigue, but I saw somebody, and I've talked to you a little bit about this. I saw somebody mention it in the comments. Where I'm at with this position is I feel like you got to go to the portal and you got to get somebody with some experience, somebody with some starts under their belt, somebody who's done it for a little while. They might have something there, and we talked about this as well. Like if they felt like Jamon Green was a serious need, like you would have had the coaches saying like, look, man, we need you for another year. We absolutely got to have you. And I'm not so sure that conversation took place. And so maybe the intention is to get something out of the portal. Maybe they know they've got something and one of the guys already on the roster and they're going to be good. I'm not sure. But to me, it feels like at this point, given the lack of depth at that position, that the best move is probably go get somebody, who's a veteran out of the transfer portal. I don't know who's available at this moment in time, but shit, if you're the University of Michigan, should be an attractive landing place if you're, a veteran corner that's in the portal and looking for a new home.
Yeah, and you can sell the idea of, oh, by the way, you can play opposite Will Johnson. Maybe you heard of him, and we're probably going to go 10-0, 11-0, 12-0 again.
And outside of this position of need, right here, we're stacked all over the field. I mean, that defense is going to be, and then we'll have plenty of time to talk about it in the coming days, weeks, and months. But that defense is just, once again, I think they're going to be incredible. One of the top defenses in the country. If you can get this position figured out, if you can get that other corner spot locked down, I mean, look out.
Yeah. And then
that's the top 5 defense in my mind, no doubt about it.
And then last but not least, this is where you could potentially get a little either addition by addition or you accidentally make your defense a little worse, which I know nobody wants to do. Dude, Agent Zero. Mike Sainristil showed so much as a cover man, as a defender, as a tackler, as a cornerback. Here's the deal. I would feel totally fine putting Mike Sainristil at corner opposite Will Johnson and letting him be the guy. But then you're pulling him away from where he was phenomenal. So then is he as effective at true cornerback as he was at nickel? And then you put somebody in at nickel who I would bet a lot of money won't be as good as Mike Sainristil was there. So do you leave Mike Sainristil at nickel and try to fill that corner spot with somebody else? Or do you put Mike Sainristil at corner because you know he can do it and try to fill the nickel spot with somebody who's probably not going to be as good as he is? Like that's where you've got something to figure out. I'm leaving him where he is.
I'm leaving him right where he is. He did just fine there, making a name for himself. And again, the transition, and I know he played defense in high school, but to make that transition at the point in his career that he did and be as good as he was, I just think is remarkable. And I don't want to move him out of that position because he plays it really well. And I think his NFL draft stock is going to go up considerably this next year. So again, I think you keep Mike Sainristil still where he's at, and whether or not it's McBurrows, whether or not it's Marion Walker, whether or not it's some of those other guys that are unproven that could potentially fill that role, or you go to the transfer portal and you get somebody who's got some experience under their belt. That's really the only position on the defense that I have a little bit of concern about. But even if they go to the guys, even if it is McBurrows over there, I'm not really all that concerned. I feel like they've got it going enough at this point to where whoever that person is, they'll be all right.
I saw a couple good friends of the show, CJ Frazier with a good point, my buddy Dan General earlier with a good point. CJ just said, I'd rather leave Mikey where he's at. He killed it there. He does everything at that position perfectly. Little less experience maybe at boundary corner, and you can get some help with the safeties over the top. You've got really veteran guys there now who can help out. Mikey can help. I mean, like that to me seems to be what would ruffle feathers the least. So I think leaving Mike Sainristil at nickel is the smart approach. But dude, what if he is as good at corner as he was at nickel? And now you've got two lockdown corners out there.
Put it this way: if they needed him to step into that role, I think he would flourish. I think he would play well. The problem is he's just so good at where he's at that I wouldn't want to take him out of it.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to think about. On the flip side, you put an inexperienced guy over there at corner, that dude's getting thrown at because they're not going at Will Johnson. Mikey's got the nickel stuff on lock. The safeties are really good wherever they're at. I like both of those points. So this is where this is a great discussion about what Michigan's defense is going to look like, because I think that other cornerback spot opposite Will Johnson is big. I think it's a big point.
But here's another luxury that Michigan has. Okay, week 1, the first 4 games are at home. Week 1, East Carolina. Week 2, UNLV. Week 3, Bowling Green. And then week 4, Rutgers. You've got some time, not just during fall camp, but you've got some time during the season to figure out who that other guy is going to be, where if you're getting burned a couple of times, it's not going to kill you overall with some of these teams. So they can get it sorted out in the first 4 weeks. There's no doubt.
Can I be a dick for a second?
Go ahead.
We know this staff loves using the first 4 weeks to figure stuff out, dude. They love it. They love doing that, right?
Use the first 4 weeks.
I had to, because we only said it for 8 weeks. Right? They wouldn't do it on offense. Are they going to do it on defense?
You can do whatever you want to do in the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, I know. No, the defense is going to be really good. They're 2 and 3 deep across every position up front. The linebackers, there's probably too many of them to play. The safeties, there's probably too many of them to play. And Will Johnson is not coming off the field. You've got one spot on the entire defense that you got to kind of figure out. That's it. Yep. That's not a bad place to be.
That's where I'm at, is I have confidence that they're going to figure it out. Whether or not it's a guy on roster, whether or not it's transfer portal, they'll figure it out.
I saw this. Robert Richards, it's a great point. I trust Minner to do anything. Whatever needs to be solved and figured out, Minner's got it. I don't doubt that for a second. So I think that's an incredible place to be in January when you already pretty much know who's starting on your defense across the board. And offense isn't that much different, and that's where we're gonna kind of finish up our show, and then I'm gonna give you the floor a little bit for this Mozzie Smith interview that you worked on and kind of preview that a little bit, because it looks like it's gonna be incredible. I mean, you only got 2 hours of footage with him. I mean, shit. What could you possibly have?
When we got done and I looked at it, I was like, did we really just sit here and talk for an hour and 45 minutes? I feel bad. I felt like I should have had like a timer going, but that's how things go.
Mozzie's like, I'm hungry again. Can I get another meal? I've been here for all day.
I was drinking beer. I was eating pulled pork, mac and cheese. So, I was in my element. Mozzie seemed to be enjoying his food. It was just a good time, man. And he was, I think it was the next day, either on Monday or Tuesday, he was headed out to Arizona to start training, getting ready for the NFL. And so it was his last interview in Ann Arbor before he departed. And I think it was fun to have that time with him, man, and be able to sit and talk about those things. But we'll get to it later.
We will finish the show with that. That will be our final talking point. But I'm writing another article on this. You came out of the gates with an offensive line article today, so I decided to probably just till tomorrow. I'll probably put it out tomorrow, maybe Friday, whatever day it ends up being. But, dude, this offensive line, and I reached out to a couple people that are a little older than me and that have a little better memory when it comes to, like, the depth of the O-line. People who have covered the team for longer than I have, just kind of going back. Because Michigan's always been known as a very strong offensive line program. A couple first overall picks, some, All-American guys, the 77 jersey. I mean, like, it's part of the fabric of the program. I'm going to say this. Michigan has never had a better offensive line than they will have in 2023. When it comes to depth at every spot, returning experience, potential. Am I hearing music? What am I don't know what that is. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, I hope nobody else is hearing that, but I'm hearing something in the background of whatever's
all right?
going on. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if anybody else hears it or not. Maybe I'm losing my mind. What I was saying. Like, okay, they lose a guy like Olu, who was the Remington Award winner and the best center in the country, and they're potentially going to replace him with another really good guy. We're going to get into that. But this offensive line, dude, goes 13 deep. 13! And 11 of them have started games. Is it something on your phone maybe that's being picked up? I swear to God I hear something. And somebody else says they hear something. Yes, it sounds like a dial-up internet connection. It's like
I don't hear anything.
Let me mute something and come back.
No, you're still muted. You're still muted. No. Brandon has muted himself and now he can't unmute himself. There you go. There you go. Jesus Christ.
Well, we're just going to go ahead with the dial up in the background and we'll continue
roll with it. Is my fax machine running? Am I getting important facts here from Ward Manuel telling me to shut it down? No,
Ward Manuel doesn't send faxes. He doesn't even. We don't know what he's doing. It's Matt Weiss hacking into my mainframe.
Oh my God.
That's a great
Matt
point.
Weiss, all right, please just leave us alone. Let us do our show here. A couple of dinks in our basement.
This offensive line, I have 13 bodies that I legitimately think could play. Now, there's 3 who haven't really played, but if Michigan didn't go out and get a Drake, all right, let's do 2 of them that we just don't need to talk about that much. Left guard, right guard. Trevor Keegan, back. Zach Zinner, back. That's it. They're in. Like, that's your starting left guard, starting right guard. All right, good. We're cool with them. Backing up Trevor Keegan, and I think probably backing up Zinner, I would assume he can play both sides. Giovanni El Hadi, who started multiple games while Keegan was injured, and Keegan bumped out to left tackle for one game, so El Hadi came in there. Like, you're set at guard. Like, you are set at guard with future NFL guys. At center, Chris, I think you and I are both on the same page. Be pretty surprised if it's not Drake Nugent starting. Is that fair for you?
Yeah, I mean, he's got 24 starts under his belt. He was on the Remington watch list as well. And actually, the article I had put out, Pro Football Focus College had graded him higher than Olu in 2022, and Olu actually took home the award. And so, yeah, I know they've got some guys who have been there. Raheem Anderson, Greg Crippen, they have guys who are ready to step into, I think, a starting role. But at the end of the day, when you bring in a guy like that, it just feels like that's your starting center.
So you put a guy like that, a smart dude with a lot of starts from Stanford, played some ball, and you sandwich him with 2 potential all Big Ten, maybe all American guards. Yeah, he's going to be good. Like,
that's
I don't think he's
NFL offensive line. That's what it is.
He's not quite as physically gifted as Olu, but I think, mentally he's going to be right there. Experience wise, he's pretty close, and he's going to have the benefit of having senior, just absolute studs at guard on both sides of him. So I think your guard, center, guard battery is set. I think it's Keegan, Nugent, Zinner. Let's plow some roads. Now, you get out to the tackle spots, and you've got 6 guys who I think you could put in a variety of those locations and be really, really good.
It's the 2 transfers, right? Is that where you're leaning?
I like Carson Barnhart and Trente Jones both a lot. I really like a 6'7", 330-pound Miles Hinton at right tackle. Like a lot.
That's tough. It's tough to move.
Like they're gonna battle, and
Yeah.
Barnhart and Trente have the advantage of being veterans in the program. It's hard to deal with a former 5-star that goes 6'7", 325. Hard to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this earlier today, and I had Barnhart penciled in because he got good run there, especially when Trente Jones went down. I don't know if he's got 6, 7, maybe 8 starts under his belt at this point, but he got a lot of playing time. But you're right, man. When you bring a guy in of that size, like it's just and he was a 5-star for a reason. He's going to take up a lot of space. This is a good problem to have for Michigan. Whoever it is they have at that spot, I think is going to be. What? Go ahead. Where are you going?
14 guys.
14. Okay, you're adding another.
I'm going to throw in a third-year Tristan Bounds at 6'8", 315 who might be able to get a look somewhere.
That dude is hungry.
He hasn't played.
That dude is hungry.
He hasn't played. Okay, all right. Maybe it's not a 6'7", 325-pound Miles Hinton. Maybe it's a 6'7", 312-pound Andrew Gentry, who's, by the way, just been back there biding his time, coming back from his mission, and he's got like 5 years of eligibility remaining at Michigan. All right? Or, shit, I don't like any of these 6'7", 320-pounders. Let's just run it back with 2 parts of the Joe Moore Award-winning group in Carson Barnhart and Trente Jones. Cool? Can we do that?
Yeah.
All right. Let's throw it over to the left tackle side. Ladarius Henderson, anybody? Another 6'7" or 6'6". I'm going to look up what he's listed at, coming from Arizona State. And he's played guard. He's played tackle. He looks like a potential future NFL kind of guy. I mean, body-wise, build-wise, dude's a pro. 6'5", 310. All right, 6'5", 310, maybe at your left tackle spot over there, Ladarius Henderson. Or, let me get his measurements because I know it's impressive. Maybe a 6'8", 310-pound Jeff Percy who stepped in and played left tackle for Ryan Hayes a couple times.
Options.
Dude, I don't know who's going to start in those tackle spots because you literally have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bodies that if you just threw a dart and said they're starting, I'd be like, let's get it. And let's hand it off to Blake Coleman, Donovan Edwards, and watch them go.
I was just going to say, man, it's hard not to be very, very, very excited about the potential of this offense when you run through the list of potential, options at the offensive line. You've got J.J. McCarthy coming back, who's now got a year of starting experience under his belt. You've got Blake Corum, who was a Heisman candidate for a majority of the year. You've got Donovan Edwards, who's a home run threat anytime he touches the ball. You've got Roman Wilson, guys like Darius Clemens, Cornelius Johnson coming back. This offense, top to bottom, I mean, you were giving me shit. It wasn't all that long ago. Oh, I talked to you about this. We're going to look at the schedule at some point in time here in the near future. Yeah. And what are we going to predict? What are we going to predict, Brandon? The regular season.
12-0.
12-0. That's where this program is at right now. And I feel like the offense is going to be even better in 2023 than it was in 2022. And that's, when you've got an offensive line that's won the Joe Moore Award 2 years in a row, it looks like they're going to win it for a third year in a row if everything goes the way it should go, given the depth and talent that they have returning. It's incredible where this program is right now.
Let me ask you this, Chris. Here's another example of like the Mike Sainristil thing. Incredible at nickel, so it makes you not want to move him, even though he might be really good at corner, might be the best option on the team right now to play the other corner spot. But do you want to rock the boat and move him off a nickel? Both you and I said no. Leave him at nickel. Figure out the other corner. That makes the most sense. All right, let me give you a proposition, Chris, because the young man has repped there before, and there was discussion about it. Do you take a Zach Zinter and put him at center and bring in that Ladarius Henderson, who's got 20 or 30 starts at guard, and let him play his natural guard position and then figure out the tackles from there?
No.
Or is it just so easy to put Nugent in at center?
It's too easy to put Nugent right there at center. Yeah. Again, graded out higher than Olu, according to Pro Football Focus, was on the Remington Ward watch list. I think he's a guy that can step in. Will he do as good of a job? I don't know, but I think he's going to be right there with what Olu was able to do. And then again, you just named off all the guys they have at the other positions up front there. Yeah, I don't think you move Zach Zinner. I think Zinner and Keegan are where they are, and that's where they're going to stay.
I'm trying to pull this up real quick. And I know it's not always about like the measurables, but like you start thinking about 6'8", 315, 6'6", 310. Like it just starts to feel
it's a big man.
Pretty good. So Oluwatimi is 6'3", 307.
Yep.
Drake Nugent is 6'1", 300. Do you care? Does that even matter?
No, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, not necessarily at that position.
Yes, center is a place where you can get away with, he's a little sawed off, man. His arms are a little short. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Is he smart? Can he make calls? Can he get guys lined up in the right spot? And can he hold down? Can he not get – who was the guy a handful of years ago that was just too damn small to play center at Michigan, but he did it, and he did it as well as he possibly – was it Molk? And then he actually had a cup of coffee in the NFL. Jack Miller, I think, was another one. There's been some guys. You can't have a guy get physically dominated at center. And as long as Nugent's big enough to not get dominated where the pocket is getting crushed repeatedly, you're good. Like you don't need that guy to be your best offensive lineman. I think you need him to be your smartest offensive lineman. I think he is that. You're talking about a guy from Stanford who has started a bunch of games. He's not a dummy. So he's gonna be good in that spot. All right, so this is what we're gonna do, Chris. I'm gonna mark this down. It is January 18th, Chris. What is Michigan's starting offensive line going into 2023? Now, injuries aside, outstanding circumstances aside, like if you're going with your top 5, left tackle to right tackle, who you got?
Well, I think you're going with Nugent at center. Then you've got Keegan and Zinner.
Yep. Those are locked in. I feel like anybody who says anything different there is just trying to outthink the room. And then
I'm going to go with Hinton just because of sheer size and volume. Okay. It feels like, I don't know, it feels like that might be a shoo-in, even though I feel like Carson Barnhart, like I said, he's going to give him a run for his money. He's going to be right there. And then on the other side, I don't know, man. Jeff Percy. I mean, again, you talk about size, you talk about a guy who's got, you know what? I'm not going to go too, I'm not just going to be picking easy apples off the tree. Give me Percy. Give me Percy to take over at that position there. Give me a wild card there. Who do you got? Is that who you circled?
Percy.
Love it.
Line them up.
Give me big bodies up front. That's what I want.
Give me 6'8", 320 by the time he rolls out there next year because he's listed at 310 right now. Give me 6'8", 310-pound Jeff Percy out of Mission Viejo, California. Big-time program out there, J. Sarah Catholic. Look, dude, this
whole line.
That means, let me break it down for you real quick. That means that big-ass Ladarius Henderson, who's 6'5", 315, who transferred in from Arizona State, is pine. He's pined right now. That means that Trente Jones and Carson Barnhart, who split starts last year on the Joe Moore award-winning offensive line, are now riding pine. Are you okay with that? It's crazy, dude.
That's an unfair question. That's an unfair question.
The embarrassment of riches along the offensive line right now for Strone
There's
Moore
only so many spots. There's only so many spots, but I want big, beefy dudes up front. don't
118, 100. We don't even use the board anymore. I'm getting that as soon as we're done.
I just want big guys up front. That's what I want. And it seems like, Percy and Hinton seem to fit the mold better than, anybody else that you listed off. But again, with the amount of depth, I'm not going to be surprised if it's Barnhart trotting out there week 1. I'm not going to be surprised if it's, any of these other guys that we named off. It just seems like it is an embarrassment of riches on the offensive line, and everything starts and begins there for this football program offensively, especially with the way that they want to run the ball and control the line of scrimmage. And so they're just positioned well, man. They're positioned well to make it 3 in a row. And somebody said it in the comments, and I agree. Like, do not take this time for granted, because even like the top elite programs, like you don't stay there forever. You don't get to experience this. And this run up, it's almost like we talked about it before. Like, it's almost like Michigan didn't beat Ohio State and didn't win a Big Ten championship because everybody's pissed off about what happened against TCU in the college football playoff. Like this program, it's a golden era right now for guys like us who have suffered for decades.
I'm not gonna lie. A couple points here. Great, Rob, love it. Big beefy dudes up front shirts. Probably would sell a handful of them. I'll talk about it with my business partners. So we'll look into that. Andrew, I had this thought. Okay, however many years ago it's been now, Rich Rodriguez invented a new form of offense by accident called the zone read. Right? I don't know if you've ever heard this story, Chris, but legend has it that in a practice, I think it was when he was at West Virginia, it might even been before that when he was at Tulane. He was the I think it was when he was the offensive coordinator at Tulane. They were running plays in practice, and they had a mobile quarterback, and it was a big part of their game. They did, a lot of quarterback run, and they went to do a simple handoff, and it kind of like got botched. And the running back was like trying to get it, and then he didn't get it, and he just kept running, and the quarterback just kind of had it, and he ran out the other side, and there was nobody to be found because the defense crashed down on the running back, and they had never seen it before, and thus the zone read keeper was born. Yeah. So I don't know how many years ago this was. This isn't like 19. This is like Newt Rockney shit. This was like we were probably in high school at this point. Football does evolve. All right. Is Jim Harbaugh inventing the permanent 7-man line where you just trot out like 6,000 pounds of humanoid and you just run the ball behind? Like, he already doesn't ever play a play without a tight end on the field. Usually it's 2. Multiple, right? Now we're going to have like left tackle, left guard, like just 7 offensive linemen out there on every play. Both Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum in the backfield with J.J. McCarthy. Wide receivers, we'll see you later. We don't need you anymore.
Just, again, bully your way through the entire season and then see what happens in the college football playoff. It feels like Michigan can absolutely do that. And it's not the sexiest brand of offense, but
I do understand that this is like the wing T or the veer. But I'm thinking more of like
32 here.
Yeah, just a different vibe because you've got zone read mixed in there with play action. I don't know. Bottom line is this, Chris. At left tackle and right tackle, you have these dudes to choose from. Ladarius Henderson, Jeff Percy, Miles Hinton, Trente Jones, Carson Barnhart, Zach Gentry. I'm sorry. Zach Gentry played tight end for Michigan. Andrew Gentry,
yes.
And Tristan Bounds. All of them
solid
are large. I mean, Barnhart and Trente are the ones who have played, and they're like the least physically imposing of the group.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me. I'm not a big O-line guy. When I watch football on TV, I don't watch the O-line. I really don't. Hardly ever. I like going back and watching it again, and you've seen guys really dominate sometimes. I'm so excited for this offensive line and what Schroeder is going to do with it.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it. I think both you and I have evolved in, and part of it is because we really have no choice, right? Because it's either spend, the first 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 weeks complaining that they're not throwing the ball enough, or you just accept the fact that this is what the brand of Michigan football is going to be. And you're right. They bring in these guys on the offensive line. And I am more excited to see, yes, it starts up front, but just Michigan's rushing attack overall. We know they're going to run the shit out of the ball at least the first 4 or 5 weeks. So I'm excited to see what it looks like, man, because they were blowing people off the ball last year, and it feels like they're going to be even better. And then you've got a guy like Sharon Moore leading the way, who you know is going to coach him up. Phenomenal coach. The guys love playing for him. It just feels like they have got everything working on that side of the ball.
I mean, it's crazy, but I think you could say if they brought in 0 transfers on the O-line, they'd still be really good. Just fine. Yeah. Just fine. But then you throw in, dude, honestly,
the only position I would be a little bit unsure.
A little bit.
Is it Raheem Anderson? Who are you going to have there at center?
There would be some uncertainty, but I think having those guards there puts a lot of that at ease.
Correct.
A lot.
Yeah.
There's a really good chance that you start your all-star guards that just decided to return and the 3 transfers and have the best line in college football.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. And that's why I put out that article that it feels like, once again, Michigan is going to have the best offensive line in the country. And You're going to have healthy Blake Corum, healthy Donovan Edwards, JJ McCarthy with a full year of experience under his belt, wide receivers with a ton of experience. And, the least experience that's probably going to be in the mix is Darius Clemens, who looks like he could be the best out of the whole bunch in terms of physical ability. So I am excited for this Michigan offense. I know it's going to be smash mouth. I know that the brand of football is going to be the same, but I just feel like it's going to be even better than it was in 2022.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. So Ladarius Henderson in 2021, they don't have his 2022 season listed. I wonder if I could find that somewhere. But in 2021, he started 13 games at left guard. I think last year he started to sprinkle in the tackle stuff, but also continued to play at guard. Anyway, it's a phenomenal crop of talent. Not only talent, but experienced talent. 11, let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. I think 9 of them have started significant, not just like one off. Like Percy has the one start, El Hadi's got a handful, and then everybody else has double digit starts up front.
Yeah.
It's an incredible group, man. Incredible group. All right, last but not least, Chris, the floor is yours. You had a chance to sit down with one Mozzie Smith. We already teased it a little bit for damn near 2 hours. He was there for longer than 2 hours, but you have almost 2 hours of recorded content with Mozzie, which again, I mean, I was hanging out for a little bit, but then I realized that I was just like a weird person in the background that Mozzie kept inadvertently making eye contact with. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go. So I went out and did a little bit of work, and then the Michigan basketball game started. So I was busy. I was good. I was eating, drinking Diesel.
Yeah.
I was good. But you were back there getting it in with, getting just phenomenal content from Mozzie for a long time.
I mean, we talked about everything. We talked about football. We talked about life. We talked about, kind of his experiences as a kid and growing up in Grand Rapids, and, his early experience at Michigan. I mean, the dude was like this close to transferring his freshman year, talked about some conversations that he had directly with Jim Harbaugh. He shared a really funny interaction that he had with Cade McNamara, and the way that he described that interaction and how he describes Cade McNamara, I just thought was hilarious. But there's so much good stuff in that interview. It is taking, believe it or not, it takes, well, Brandon, it's taking a considerable amount of time to chop this up and get it right, because, we had 4 or 5 different cameras on us, each camera recording an hour and 45 minutes worth of footage.
I wanted to say this. We have now learned, I mean, we knew it, but we have now learned that Rich, he spares no expense. He cuts no corners. If he's going to do it, he's going to do it to the point where you're involved in it. Like, you want it to be amazing. You want it to be the best ever. And you almost find yourself being like, Rich, really, do we really need all this shit? Like, really?
I don't even know what the thing is where you clink it or you chop it or whatever.
Mozzie Smith, take one. Your little marker. And dude, he had that. He had the big lighting, umbrella deals.
Huge umbrella lights overhead.
Incredible. So,
5 cameras, a moving camera, stationary cameras. I mean, so that's the thing. The quality of interview, just from what Rich from Mediascapes,
the microphone, audio, all that shit too. Everything.
The mic, everything. I mean, we did it top notch. And for Mozzie to come in and to sit and talk and give that much time and to be that open about, pretty much everything. I mean, we talked about, like I said, the time where he felt like he was almost going to transfer from Michigan, and some of the issues he had when he first got to the university, and then kind of his growth over 4 years and where he got to where he was now. And we talked about the NFL, we talked about teams that he was interested. I mean, we talked about everything, and I think it's going to be, once I'm able to get it out, I think people are going to really enjoy the product. And that's something that I want to continue to bring to the winged helmet community, that I think is just going to be something that sets us apart, where, it's more of a relaxed type of environment, and it's a shoot the shit, sit and hit. I mean, we were both eating food. I was drinking a little bit, asking him a ton of questions just about life and different things. And he's just a great guy to talk to, man. He's when you see him, if you don't know Mozzie Smith, and you see him walking towards you, you're like, it's intimidating. He's a big dude. He's imposing, physically imposing. And then you sit and you talk to him, and he is soft-spoken, very thoughtful in what he says, and is just a great representation of, I think, everything you want as a fan out of a Michigan football player, and the way he presents himself and represents the university. And so I was honored to be able to spend that time with him. And again, I'm excited to share the interview. It's just taking a little bit longer than I thought to chop it all up, but I want to make sure I get it right. So the hope is that I drop it Friday. My plan was Tuesday, and then I got into it, and I was like, one of the upload times was like 17 hours on my laptop. I was like, all right, cool. So my laptop's going to chill over there in the corner for like a day. So that's the kind of time we're talking about. I just don't have the equipment to turn it around as fast as I would like. But I will say this. Mozzie was the first of this type of interview that I plan on doing, but he is definitely not going to be the last. We've already got some other ones lined up. So I'm excited, man.
Yeah, should be good stuff. And again, like, Rich's equipment, he had like baller ass cameras. So we were talking an hour and 45 minutes of like 4K high quality, like the best of the best. And I mean, it's not, it's not uploading a 30-second video to Twitter. Like it's going to take a little time. Chris called me. He's like, dude, I don't know what to do. I like the big fat SD cards too, like not the regular ones.
Yeah. But I mean, hey, he's a creative writing major. He likes, he plays and builds Legos a lot. You know what I mean? And he writes music. There's so much more to Mozzie Smith than what you see on Saturdays.
Mozzie said he literally will like get down and lay on the floor on his stomach with like his feet like a 6-year-old building Legos for like 8 hours. Like just the thought, like see him like no you don't. No, you don't. But he's
There's
like, yeah,
no way.
I do that. And like I said, I didn't hear. I'm excited because, like I said, I was standing. So Rich had the cameras set up where they were, so there were only a few places back there where you could go where you wouldn't be shot. And one of the places was behind Chris, and so Mozzie would be talking, and he would just look at me, and I'm like, damn it, dude! Like I don't want to be a focal point back here. So my point is, I heard like 10 minutes of it, like the whole thing. I wasn't really back there for, so I'm excited for it too. A really cool experience. Huge shout out to Wolverine State Brewing Company for letting us use the Gulo room. Huge shout out to Rich from Mediascapes for all of the equipment and making it happen. Huge shout out to Chris for setting it up and conducting what was a long ass interview. And then
I mean, TCU, he watched film on the national championship game. I mean, we talked stuff that wasn't football related, but we talked a lot of football related things as well. Just, I think, things as we were sitting there as fans watching Georgia and TCU, like I asked him that, like, what's going through your mind? I mean, like all of these things that you would want to hear from somebody in his position. Again, lengthy interview, taking a lot of time to cut it up, but I think it's going to be well worth it once I'm able to get it out.
And the biggest shout out of all to Mozzie for giving that kind of time when he was about to get ready to leave and,
That's a really good dude. Yeah. The
biggest next 6 to 8 months or year of his entire life as a football player. So just
we spent days. He sent me a text because I told him I wanted to do this, and I talked to him about it a few weeks back. And he was like, yeah, he's like, I'm down or whatever. And so I said, well, what's your schedule look like over the next couple of weeks? And he said, he said, well, we got to make it happen like soon. He's like, I'm leaving on Tuesday to go train. And I read it as I'm leaving Tuesday on a train. And so Brandon and I spent a couple days like trying to figure out like what the fuck is Mozzie? Where is he taking a train to? Like what's happening? Why is Mozzie? It's like, oh, well, he's too big for the airplane. That's what it is. And then it turns out I just read. So when he got there, I asked him, I'm like, so dude, why are you taking a train to wherever you go? Like, do you need a ride? What's the deal?
This is my first time hearing this. We had like a 10-minute conversation about why Mozzie was taking a train somewhere.
Oh, you didn't know that's what it was?
No, this is the first time you told me that.
Yeah, so I misinterpreted. He said, I'm leaving to go train. And I had read it as I'm leaving on a train on Tuesday.
Hale wine, anybody? Can I get anybody a big tall glass of Hale wine? Jesus Christ.
I was very consumed. Like I couldn't get it out of my head. Why is he taking a train? Like where would you need to take a train to that you can't fly to?
Let's hop on the train, pour some tall glasses of hail wine, kick back with Louis Anderson, just get after it out here, dude.
Just getting it in. It all made sense to me. He's probably renting out the box car. He doesn't like people touching him. He wants all that space. Like,
dude, we had full conversations about Mozzie being like too big for an airplane standard seat. Maybe he didn't want to bone up for the first class. He's taking train, dude. No problem. No problem.
That is true. We never did out at the college football playoff. We never went through our 40. You know what I mean? We were supposed to go through the whole back pedal thing, turn your hips and whatever. You know, we never went through that. We got time to get right here during the off season.
Well, it ended up being a little more abbreviated trip for you, and then the weather was shit. And I don't know.
And I was sick as shit. I mean, let's not forget that. I had no voice whatsoever.
Oh boy, what a show! Hour and 34, dude.
Woo! It happens.
I guess that's what you get when it's once a week. So there you go.
Once a week. There you go.
Hopefully you guys all enjoyed it. We'll be back a week from today, unless there's a reason that we absolutely have to get on again. We will see you on Wednesday night.